More exciting announcements from Apple's. The tech giant unveiled some new updates at its annual WWDC event this week. Here to break down everything you need to know is the senior culture writer at TechCrunch, Amanda Silberling. Amanda, thanks for being here. Okay, so top takeaways, if we tracked solely based on how Apple's stock performed on the afternoon of the announcement, maybe a bit of disappointment among longtime Apple enthusiasts on the artificial intelligence side, but what most stood out to you from this year's event at Cupertino?
I think overall, a big part of the announcement is that they're transitioning the design into what they're calling liquid glass, which actually kind of looks like Windows Vista, funnily enough. But what that means is that they're seeing different parts of the screen like literal glass, where it's transparent, it's kind of shiny, it has a bit of a sheen to it. So that whole visual overhaul is going to come to TV, watches, iPads, Macs, iPhones, etc. And as far as the OS updates go, I personally was really excited about the iPad OS update because I feel like right now the iPad feels like a giant iPhone, which has its uses, but sometimes is lacking for things like trying to work on an iPad can be tricky at times with multiple tabs. But now on the iPad OS 26, they're calling it, it takes a lot of inspiration from the Mac design, I think, where you see that now there's a top bar similar to on a Mac where you navigate using that bar. There is the ability to customize where windows are, open up to, I think, 4 windows at a time, but more windows than you can currently open on the iPad. And there's the preview function, so just file management and multitasking just much easier on the iPad, which isn't as exciting as a big visual upgrade, but is something that's exciting if you ever try to do any work on an iPad.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I've noticed with my iPad, and it's still pretty new, I feel like it's just kind of an extension of the iPhone, obviously, in terms of app integration, and it feels more like a big phone than it does a smaller computer. And so I'm emboldened as you make that description, because I know you followed the announcements very closely. There's a lot of chatter on social media about some of the UX concerns, people saying, well, maybe the new drag down menu kind of does this weird kind of gloss over of the existing apps underneath. Obviously, the company has largely embraced what's known as a Gaussian blur up until now. It seems like they're maybe going in a different direction. What did you make of the new UX or user experience layout and some of the chatter over the last 18 hours or so?
Yeah, so when Apple rolls out these OS updates, generally they do a developer beta first, which is people that are building apps and stuff and really ingrained in the tech community, then a public beta, and then it gets released to the public. And I feel like these are things that usually kind of get worked out in the beta, because beta testers aren't expecting to get a fully seamless, perfect visual product. So I would hope that Apple looks at some of the issues people are having and thinks about whether things like liquid glass would be an accessibility concern maybe to some people with low vision because the contrast is so low. But also, I'm not super worried about it because what's great about Apple's UX is that it's so customizable. So if you think that liquid glass looks terrible, then you can use something that's more akin to what you already have.
Yeah. What did we hear from the company in terms of big AI announcements? I think if you look at what we call the Magnificent Seven companies, the NVIDIAs, the Microsofts of the world, ironically, it's been Apple that has somewhat been lagging the pack in terms of consumer-facing, big, splashy, artificial intelligence announcements. Not the sort of position Apple is used to finding itself in for a key emerging technology. What did we learn this week on that end?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of big AI announcements, which was a surprise because last year WWDC was just all AI all the time. One of the main AI updates that they unveiled is live translation, which is basically if I were speaking in Spanish and you didn't speak Spanish, then these. But they aren't saying this is AI. But even things like they updated the spotlight search on the Mac to make it a bit more like naturally, it interprets like natural language a bit better, so that instead of typing in like music and then opening the music app and then playing Beyonce, you could just say like play Beyonce, and then it'll open your music app and play Beyonce. And things like that people are starting to get more used to. Like we see that already on the iPhone, where there's suggestions or like predictions of what it thinks you want to do at any given moment. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know if the stock indications from yesterday indicate something like greater about people being concerned about Apple, but I think sometimes these AI features get just really like hammered into the ground. Like, this is AI, but AI appears in so many things across tech that we use that isn't immediately obvious.
Of the many new features or announcements, which are you most excited to try out?
I think that some of the quality of life features on the iPhone will be interesting. Like, there's a hold assist feature, so that if you're on hold with the doctor's office and then they start playing hold music, then the iPhone can detect that hold music is playing and then ask if you want them to hold for you, and then it'll be able to detect then when somebody comes back and says, "Oh, hello, like, what are you calling about?" And then you don't have to be sitting on hold listening to the hold music over and over. Or like an automatic call screening, where if you get a call from an unknown number, then it'll figure out what the person is calling about, and then you can decide if you want to pick up or not. I also think that updates to Messenger are fun, or not Messenger. I also think updates to messages are fun. Like the polls update, I could see being used a lot for like trying to decide with friends like what time you're meeting for dinner. But then some of the other messages updates, like making it a bit more like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, where you can have a background, I'm like, I feel like that could get a little out of hand and a little visually cluttered, but some people will like it, and if you don't like it, you don't have to use it.
There we go. It's a great, it's a great conversation, and great to get your perspective on this, because it's obviously, arguably, the world's most important company, and every little update investors and users alike are very keened in. Thank you for helping us get smarter together about the big announcements at a WWDC. That's Amanda Silberling, senior culture writer at TechCrunch. Amanda, thanks a lot. Great to have you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.